Welcome everyone to the 2022 Virtual Self-Advocacy Summit. We will get started shortly. Daniel, you could please give instructions to access the Spanish interpretation.
Sure. For all of you who are only English speakers, please, if you're using a mobile device, what you have to do is that you have to tap your screen and you will see 3 little dots. On those 3 little dots, you will choose language interpretation. And in language interpretation, you will choose the language of your preference, which in this case would be English. And then you can also mute original audio. And at the end, you press the button that says done. And that's how the service starts for you. If you're using a computer, then you will see a little globe in the lower part of your screen. In that lower part, that globe says interpretation. And what you have to do is that you choose there again, the language of your preference, and then you, the service will be activated. Also, you can mute the original audio if that's for English speakers. Ahora, para todos los que hablan español, vamos a tener el servicio de interpretación. Si están utilizando un dispositivo móvil, lo que pueden hacer es que dan clic en la pantalla, en su pantallita, y ahí van a ver una palabra que dice, perdón, van a ver 3 puntitos. En esos 3 puntitos lo que van a seleccionar es el idioma de su preferencia, y el idioma que ustedes seleccionen sería español. Si están utilizando una computadora, en la parte inferior de su pantalla van a ver un icono que es la forma de un globito. En ese globito le van a hacer clic y ahí les va a aparecer los idiomas de su preferencia, que en este caso sería español. También pueden silenciar el audio original y de esa manera queda activado para ustedes el servicio de interpretación. Done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And now we have Chloe. She's going to play a little bit of a music video while we get everyone settled in and logging on. All right, thank you, Chloe. Now we're going to have Daniel come back on to give those directions if you want Spanish interpretation. Thank you.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenas a todos. Les damos la bienvenida. Hoy vamos a tener servicio de interpretación. Si usted está utilizando un dispositivo móvil, lo que tiene que hacer es tocar su pantalla y van a ver que aparecen 3 puntitos. En esos 3 puntitos los seleccionan y van a ver la opción que dice interpretación de idiomas. Allí en la interpretación de idiomas seleccionan el idioma de su preferencia, que en su caso sería español. También le pueden dar a silenciar el audio original. Después hacen clic en el botoncito que aparece que dice Done o finalizar y queda activado el servicio para ustedes. Si están utilizando una computadora, en la parte inferior de su pantalla van a ver un icono de un globito o un mundito que dice interpretación. Allí le hacen clic y van a ver los diferentes idiomas disponibles. En este caso seleccionarían español. También pueden darle a silenciar el audio original y de esa manera queda activado el servicio para ustedes. If you are English only speaker, then if you want to listen to the interventions of people when they speak in Spanish translated into English, what you have to do is that if you're using a mobile device, you tap on the screen, you will see 3 little dots. In those 3 little dots, you will see the option language interpretation. You choose that option and then you can select the language of your preference, which in this case would be English. Then you will click on the button that says done and the service is activated for you. Now, if you are using a computer, in the lower part of your screen, you will see a little globe. You click on that globe and you will see the language available. And in this case, you will choose English. You can also mute original audio, and that way the service is activated for you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Daniel. Everybody, welcome to the 2022 Self-Advocacy Summit for Youth and Young Adults with Disabilities. This summit is brought to you by Resources for Independence, Central Valley, EPU Childrens Center, Central Valley Regional Center, and the State Council on Developmental Disabilities Sequoia office. We welcome you to our final day of this week's advocacy journey, where you have learned new skills to add to your toolbox and hopefully took advantage of the opportunity to receive valuable information at the virtual resource fair. We would like to thank the team at EPU for hosting the Zoom webinar platform today, the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Service Center for providing ASL interpreters for this event, and Linguistica Interpreting and Translation Services for their Spanish interpretation services. A few housekeeping items. The chat box has been disabled. If you have questions or comments, please pop them into the Q&A. If you need to voice your comment or voice your question, please raise your hand and you'll be called on when it is appropriate. Live captioning has been enabled for your convenience. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our first presentation for today. Here to talk to us about combating bullying and how to stick up for yourself is youth organizer Jessica Riestra from CFILC. Welcome, Jessica.
Hello. It is really great to be here with all of you and also get to talk a little bit about bullying, because that is definitely something that is very much combated, especially in the type of work that I do. So I'll be sharing a quick PowerPoint to be able to discuss on the different types of bullying, and as well as being able to delve deeper into how we could be able to advocate for ourselves and create a more positive environment to be able to combat bullying. So yeah, just give me a quick second to open up my thing, because I have a lot of things opened up, so I apologize for that. All right. Please do know that all this information was taken from different campuses and different stuff of what different people are working on. So I did a combination of multiple things. Let me just open this up completely. So, all right. So bullying of students with disabilities. Bullying is characterized by aggression used within a relationship, where the aggressors have more real and perceived power than the target, and the aggression is repeated or has the potential to be repeated over time. There are a variety of different characteristics of what bullying entails. One of them includes cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is bullying through electronic technology, and that can include offensive text messages or emails, rumors, or embarrassing photos on social networking sites or fake profiles. There's also verbal bullying, which uses words to hurt or humiliate another person. Often this can be name calling, insulting, making racist comments, and constant teasing. Then there's also physical bullying. This is a type of bullying that is usually characterized by one individual hurting another on a physical level. And then there's like the sense of emotional and social bullying, which are things such as oftentimes spreading rumors and talking behind someone's back. And then quickly, another one would be psychological bullying, which is when someone uses words intentionally to cause psychological harm. And then why and how this is something that comes into occurrence is that students who are oftentimes targets of bullying behavior are more likely to experience lower academic achievement and aspirations, higher truancy rates, feelings of alienation from schools, poor relationship with peers, and loneliness or depression. Students with learning disabilities, attention deficit / hyperactivity disorder, or autism are more likely to be bullied than their peers. Due to the characteristics of their disabilities, students with intellectual communication, processing, or emotional disabilities may not understand the extent to which bullying behaviors are harmful, or may be unable to explain the situation to an adult. Whether or not bullying is related to the student's disability, any bullying of students is something that it needs to be taken into account and something that must be worked upon. And it's something that's very serious. So there is different ways on how one can be able to combat and be able to create like a more a better way to be able to have a sense of being able to do anti-bullying campaigns to make sure that every voice is being heard and that like we are making sure that like our community is feeling heard within the educational level. However, this also can be on multiple levels because this is something that not only happens within education, but oftentimes outside of like the educational realm. So efforts to prevent and address bullying behavior should be embedded within comprehensive, multi-layered behavior framework, which more often than not is utilized to create a positive school environment, making sure that like within an educational realm that folks are able to understand, for example, like what it means to be disabled, like being able to learn more about disability rights, to be able to create a more equitable and inclusive environment within the educational realm. Oftentimes, a lot of these things that when it comes to bullying comes from lack of education. Folks are going through their own emotional trauma. They are jealous or they're going through certain multiple things. So it's important to create that positive educational environment to be able to establish something that's positive instead of negative, to make sure that like we are demonstrating that we're all about like collaboration and unifying like our student body and making sure that every voice is being heard. With that in mind, it's also important to set high academic and behavior expectations for all students and guide delivery of evidence-based instructions and interventions which address the needs of all students. There's other types of ways to be able to prevent and address bullying, which include data-based decision-making used to identify needs, analyze problem situations, outline clear evidence-based practices to be used in the delivery of instruction and interventions, and monitor progress towards clear, positive academic and behavior outcomes. There's so there's so many different layers when it comes towards like being able to combat bullying. So like we have the different layers when it comes towards the educational lens and how like a school can be able to, how the school can be able to work on being able to combat like bullying. But then there's also how do we socially invest in our student body to make sure that they understand that bullying is wrong, and making sure that they are like deeper sense of being able to get to know like who other students are, and being able to establish a sense of collaboration and positive environment to get to know one another. But at the same time, it's like, how do we demonstrate that sense of support to make sure that like our own students are like feeling comfortable and are able to speak up about their own individual experiences. Like something we definitely strive to do and that we highly encourage is always making sure that every student feels like their voice is being heard, and that they feel that they are partaking in like something where like they have a voice, and that they're able to utilize it without the fear of repercussion, or without like the sense of fear that like something might happen. So how do we start doing this is like definitely is teach appropriate behaviors and how to respond, provide active adult supervision, train and provide ongoing support for staff and students, develop and implement clear policies to address bullying, monitor and track bullying behavior, notify parents when bullying occurs, addressing ongoing areas of concerns, sustaining bullying prevention efforts over time. So there's different things, like those are different resources, but like I will be sharing more, just that I wasn't able to like finalize it because we do have a lot of resources on a state level. And then also on a county by county level, which I'll definitely share. Like I do have that, it's just I wasn't able to put it on the PowerPoint on different things that we could be able to utilize. So if at any point, like we don't feel like our students are feeling heard, we have different resources that we could be able to utilize to make sure that their voices are being heard, and like how to be able to like take this to another level and so on. So we definitely do have those resources, which I'll definitely be able to share. And then as well as have a cleaner version of this PowerPoint presentation that carries each and every single one of those documents. But yes, this is a quick overall thing of different methods to be able like to talk about the different things of what bullying, like how bullying is faced within the educational level, and some methods that can be utilized on how we could be able to confront bullying. But that's more in the educational lens. Like I have more documents on how we could be able to do this in the sense of the family lens as well as in the individual lens, because we do have like a lot of resources that are out there that we could be able to utilize to making sure that like our kids, our students are being protected at all times. And yeah, so like I'll make sure to share that with y'all, because like this is something that's very big for me as a student who has disabilities. I have confronted bullying in the past, so it is something that I'm very passionate about, and like being able to make sure that like all students have their voices be heard. But yeah, that's the end of my quick thing. Yeah. But I'll pass it back to you, Aubrey.
Yeah, well, first, we have some questions. So actually one of them is a comment. It said, I was bullied through alienation, but later on the bullies learned to change, and now all of us are friends.
Oh yeah, I feel that. I'll start with Matthew. I saw the anonymous. I feel that like oftentimes people that bully us end up like being the people that change the most. Because I felt that too. Like I really feel that comment because I was someone that was bullied, and now like that person is one of my closest friends. But like for me, it was that sense of like having had like my parents set us down and being able to understand that they were going through a lot as well, like on their personal level. And it was more so of like an emotional repercussion and taking it out on someone innocent. So like that's also like the individual traumas that are confronted like on a family by family basis. So like that is something that's impactful, and also able to understand that we also need to understand is oftentimes bullies have their own emotional trauma that leads them to like becoming bullies. So this is something that's very important to be able to like go deeper into, because like there's much more than meets the eye when it comes towards these type of discussions. And like, yeah, but we do have a lot of resources that could also be, could bullying ever happen in a grocery store or restaurant? Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt, Whitney, like more like oftentimes like people utilize the thing where like you could be at a supermarket and someone like goes straight to you and starts like saying certain things that are offensive, and like so on. Like I know, for example, my boyfriend and I are both disabled, but he has a disability that's more like seen, and like he has confronted a lot like when we've been outside, and it's a lot about being able to like have that open dialogue and help people understand that like people have feelings and so on, and that like words have meanings, and what someone says impact people like in a variety of different ways. So being able to have that open dialogue at first, I think it's very important, because like oftentimes we don't know the stories of what leads people to like be in the offensive, start attacking others. But yes, without a doubt, that can definitely be happening in a grocery store or a restaurant. And quickly going to anonymous, what is a better option than going to a teacher? Obviously, here is just like the first round of like what you should do if this is something that you are confronting within the educational lens. But like I would say, for me, and like not only utilizing that, but also my own individual struggles, is like being able to like, well, there's multiple things. On the personal level, I would say it would be important to be able to like talk to like a psychologist or a school therapist to be able to like help them understand, because like honestly, this is also emotionally is something that it's something that affects you, and that's another sense of trauma that you confront on a daily basis. So I think it's very important to be oh yeah, for sure, I'll reshare it right now. So I think it's very important to be able to have those open understandings and sense of communication with like a therapist, with your family. But when it comes towards them individually, I think teacher would be like always the first good step to start. And he nearly caused me to pass out, but he got bored and left. Before I continue, yeah. So I think when it comes towards like individual, I think those are good first steps. But please do know that I'll share different resources of different methods and like different things are out there on ways that we could be able to get like outside help, and that it doesn't always have to relate towards like a teacher or like anything within the educational lens, because we have more support than just like school, than just like a teacher and so on, everything that is happening. And Matthew, going to you, Matthew, someone bullied a little boy at my church and I stood up against the bully and he nearly caused me to pass out, but he got bored and left him. Honestly, that's really great that you did that. We need more allies. We need more people standing up against bullies. It's really sad to be able to oftentimes be a bystander and not like be able to like take action when you see something that is improper that is happening towards an individual. So I would definitely applaud you for that. That takes a lot of guts and will. So like honestly, thank you. Like, I don't know who you stood up for, but I thank you as someone that's been bullied, because that's something that's important to be able to do. I'll reshare and then I'll make sure to share this PowerPoint. And to anonymous, is having mediator beneficial? Honestly, I would say it really depends on the circumstances. Like some cases that I've seen is where like the bully learns the bullying from their own individual parents, that is something that they see at home. So oftentimes when like you're having that open dialogue with like the family, where like they sit like your family down and their family down, it can be like a little like clashing, especially if like your bullies parents are also people that oftentimes bully. So I think when it comes towards that, it would be important to be able to have a mediator to like help them understand, because I've seen, just based on where I have sat with family members, friends, etc., where I have sat with people, that can be very much like an explosive discussion if it's not being handled correctly. So like, I honestly think it's a case by case basis.
Okay. Yeah, and then somebody else commented on the question that said, what is a better option than going to a teacher? And they said that you could ask a school psychologist or administrator besides a teacher.
Oh yeah. I think, like I mentioned, for me, that's also important. Like, it's also important to emotionally and mentally like be like helped, and like have people to be there in your corner. And oftentimes like it doesn't always have to be the teacher to be the person to be able to do that. So like, yeah, and like I said, I do have a lot of resources. It's just I wasn't able to put everything together and the last like section, but I'll make sure to add different resources outside from school that folks can be able to utilize, which is also county by county level within California, but also on a statewide level, what type of resources are out there for us to be able to utilize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so youth, this is your time. You've got Jessica here, you've got her attention. If you have questions for her, please throw them out there. Or comments, maybe it doesn't have to be a question.
It might even be like what you did when something happened to you, or like Matthew, how he kind of reacted to seeing someone else being bullied. It can be all sorts of different, maybe different examples, different experiences that you've had, you know, in school or out of school, anywhere.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that's important to note that bullying is not just only happening at school with children. It happens, Whitney asked, does it happen at a grocery store? It could. It could happen there. So it really just depends on how brazen the person is and what they want to say to you.
Mhm.
And just quickly adding to that, I think that's where it's important to be very well connected to towards your own independent living centers, because like they're literally another like resource that you could be able to utilize, because they carry different sense of resources and support that they can be able to provide to you. Plus, you have a lot of people that are going through your own individual struggles, your own individual trauma, and so on. So like, you have that open dialogue that you can be able to share with folks who are going through similar struggles, and being able to have like that sense of support. Oftentimes, I think it's very important to be able to have like this sense of support from people that are going through similar things. I know from a personal basis that like I didn't have that support in high school because I didn't really know like all the resources that were within my capacity, even though like I've been disabled since I was born. So like, it's things like that, like you really don't realize. And it wasn't until I started getting involved more in college and started knowing more about like the resources that like were within my capacity, that I started to learn that like, yo, like I'm not alone. Like I have people that go through similar things, people that I can speak to, like people that like could help me be able to be my own individual advocate, and like be able to like do things for my own, and like be able to be my own independent person, and so on, that could be able to offer me that type of support. So I really do think, for example, RICV is really great resource to be able to have, because they're within your community, and like they're just present and are very actively working towards making sure that like your voices are being heard.
Awesome. And Jessica, what would you say, like, you know, if you could turn back time, right? Like what everyone says, if you could turn back time and go back to your, you know, pre-college years, right? And knowing what you know now, how do you think that experience might have been different for you?
Honestly, I think I would be a total different person. Like more like I faced a lot of trauma, like a lot of trauma, with having multiple family members with disabilities being born with it. Um, and then this is something I also discuss a lot in disability justice. Um, when you also fit more than one category when it comes towards different groups that you are a part of, you also face like more sense of like that racism, that bullying and so on, because you face more things that like cause people to like create a sense of oppression against you. So like being able to like have known pre-college about like a lot of these resources and that type of support, like I think would have been amazing, because it would have shown me like that I'm not alone. Like I also tell people like part of my individual like growing up is that within my community it's not very much seen or discussed, being able to like talk about your feelings or like what you're dealing with. So like it wasn't very common for me to talk about like just like the bullying that I was going through on campus and so on, because like it wasn't something that my parents would pay attention to, and not because they didn't care. It's just that like also being part of like a mixed status family, they had other traumas that they were facing. So like it was like a lot about like being able to like grow up very quickly. So like I think if I would have had this, I think I would have been able to know that like like I have people in my corner, and that like I'm able to share my experiences and not feel as alone as I did. But at the same time, I can't say I regret it, because like it made me grow up and mature and like be very passionate about this type of work, and making sure that like I'm like here for others and making sure that their voices are being heard. So yeah. And for Anonymous, I have been both a bully and bullied. I think understanding their opinion of me doesn't make me who I am, nor does my opinion make them what I think. I mean, that is a fair point, like in what you are saying. Um, like I like in the end, at the end of it, it's like it's about the person and about like their own individual trauma and what they are facing. Like that leads them to be like the individuals they become. It's like our history and like our past that makes us into the people that we become. So oftentimes that just comes from like our own individual experiences, and like being able to like know when to step away and being able to get like a sense of understanding of our surroundings and the harm that we are causing, not only towards another individual, but to ourselves, is something that comes from a lot of self-growth. So I totally hear what you're saying.
Yeah, and a follow-up question. Do you know of any resources in Fresno, like maybe bullying self-help groups or something where people can attend and maybe get more support in as far as bullying goes?
I do have some things in the Fresno area, because like I am well connected to some folks who are doing a lot of work there. I'll just make sure to be able to put that all together and be able to share that with y'all. Just to send it later with like the PowerPoint, because there is different resources. So like I know there is some type of work. I know, for example, one of my professors when I went to Sac State, she is from Fresno, and they did a lot of campaign work when it comes towards like bullying work, like because like that was something that she was very passionate about. So I just need to make sure if her nonprofit is still active, so like I'll make sure to follow up with her. But like I do know of a few orgs, so like I'll get back to you on that. But like please do know that there definitely is, like in every single county and city, there's a lot of work that is happening. I just think oftentimes we have so many things that we are focusing on and so many social issues that we are confronting on a daily basis. So like it's oftentimes gets all clustered with one another.
For
And
sure.
for Monica, I was bullying him. I'm sorry. Like I feel you. Like it's hard. Yes, give me 1 second. That is something that's not easy, but please do know that you have a support system. I really wish you can be able to connect with anyone here, like, or even me. Like, I'm more than willing to share my personal information. It's not a big issue. I've been there. I felt that. So like, do know that like we have like a support system that we can be able to provide towards you. And please also do know that you're definitely not alone. And yes, I'll definitely resume.
Yeah, I don't know why they're saying, can you share your screen? Because I'm already seeing your screen. So I guess I don't really understand what they want you to share.
Yeah, I see it too, so.
Well, any other questions?
You know, I had one more thought, and it's,
Yes.
you know, again, Jessica, you know, if you were bullied, you know, you were bullied through school, I know that it had an impact on what you're doing now, you know, and your career, how it's taken you to where you are today. So if you could speak a little bit more about that, I think that's kind of, I mean, that's really huge. It's very powerful to sort of take the experience of something negative like bullying, right, and turn it into something positive to help others who are going through bullying and you know, trying to help them out. So if you could just talk a little bit about that part of your journey.
Yeah, of course. So to give a little bit perspective, like my main bullying happened all of high school. So from like freshman to like senior year of high school. I was oftentimes bullied by a lot of the jocks, female and men, when it came to it, even though I did some type of sports. Reasoning, I honestly can say I don't know. Like I was specifically like their target person that like they oftentimes did. My type of bullying was very much physical, as well as emotional. So that was oftentimes, and to give perspective, like I have had been physically attacked in high school, as well as have people say a lot of negative things about me within school. So like there was a lot, those rumors and so on that spread was something that very much I confronted for 4 years. So like leaving high school, the way that I came with things was like, I never want to return. Like, I am so done with high school. Like, it was like, I am out, like, so on. I was in a really bad place. And it also didn't help that, like, I was going through, like, outside trauma because at that point, like, I had become, like, I had that, like, I was also dealing with my trauma where, like, my mom became a single parent and was raising a high school student. So, like, you keep in that, like your outside issues are happening, and then like you're also like suffering things internally when it comes towards school. It just led towards like this major sense of depression and honestly very suicidal. I won't deny that. Like I was in a really bad spot. However, like I think I always had like my someone to take care of me because I had people that amazing people walk into my life and try to open different doors for me. So like I had when I had graduated high school, I had applied towards multiple schools, had got admitted towards every campus I had applied to, but I couldn't because like we had just lost 2 family members, and then like my father had been incarcerated. So like a lot of the money that I had saved and stuff for like tuition and so on was utilized on that. So it was hard. So honestly, when it comes towards how did I overcome that, I had, I don't know, people that took like, it just took a second, like took a look at me and wanted to provide me with an opportunity. And I tell people I'm forever grateful to them. Like I am the person I am because people were willing to take a chance on me. And those people like saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself at that time because like I was in a very dark place. So like, yeah, so like when I was going through a hard time, they started getting me involved in sports. So like I could be able to like not think about like negative emotions, started like having me involved like in just community events, like being able to be socially like involved when it comes towards different issues. Like I was always very passionate about women's rights. So like did a lot of like the women's marches and started like doing like different stuff, clubs outside of school and so on. I went to community college. They introduced me towards like a lot of the professors in community college, which also opened their doors, had an open door policy with me. So like it was through those individuals that took an opportunity that led like other people to take an opportunity into me. And that just honestly from there, things opened up for me. Like once I transferred from community college into a 4-year, I had gotten like 6 scholarships. I had been involved like in student government, competed in speech and debate on a state and national level, did this and that, left to right, started getting opportunities to work on a national level. Like I started I work in 2 national organizations. I've done stuff internationally. I've had amazing opportunities where I have spoken to the press on a national level, done stuff in front of the UN. But I think it was knowing that people took their own time to show compassion to me that reminded me of how much good life has and how even throughout like all the trauma, and please do know that I went through a lot of trauma like within a very short amount of time. There were people that cared, and it just kind of reminded me that like I also need to do better because I wanted to be able to provide a better opportunity towards my own family and towards like friends and so on, to make sure that like, yo, I'm more than just like a number when it comes towards my own individual trauma. So like, yeah, like I started doing well and like here I am now. I've been able to do a lot of the coolest things and be able to like just be like a person that has gotten to explore the world. So like, yeah, I am forever grateful towards like those folks because I wouldn't be who I am without them. What degree did you go to college for? So I did 2 bachelors. So my 2 majors were political science with a concentration in international relations. And then I also did ethnic studies with a concentration in Chicanx studies. And I am currently pursuing my master's. And yeah, and the first one I think would be more for y'all. So, but yeah, so like that's a little bit about me. But like, please do know, like, life is hard without a doubt. And like, I understand that very much. I just think that it's oftentimes us surrounding ourselves with the appropriate people. And I really do think our ICV is like an amazing org to like get involved with and like being able to like have around you. That like it helps like open different like opportunities for one, and like not only on like the work level but also on the emotional level, knowing that you're not alone, because from there you build friendships and relationships with different people that last a lifetime.
Yeah, and I did answer that other question about the recordings and when they'll be available. I'll be sending out an email to all the registrants with, you know, PowerPoints, any information that we have gathered, as well as the recordings.
Awesome. Well, if there is not any more questions for Jessica, well, Jessica, thank you so much for speaking today. And I think particularly your personal story makes it that much more powerful. And to see where you are now, and it gives people hope, you know, where maybe they're in the middle of it and they can't see the light. right? That's kind of what's hard, is a lot of times, especially that high school age, it's so hard to see beyond, that there's so much life after high school, right? So it's just like, hang in there. We're there for you. You can reach out to us, but it's good to see examples and stories like yours and what you're doing. I think that's so valuable to the people that have come today. And it could be parents, right? Sometimes parents feel bad if their kids are going through some struggles. It's very hard to see. So hang in there, everybody. Hang in there. But thank you again, Jessica. Let's see, we've got the poll coming up. We'll be launching.
Oh, okay.
It's okay.
Okay, sticking up for yourself. I'm gonna launch it. And there you go. Okay, give you guys about another 15, 20 seconds. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, so now I'm going to introduce our next guest speaker. Her name is Alice Deal, and she is going to speak to us about resilience and disability pride. She's wonderfully inspirational. We've heard her speak before, but we are pleased that she is able to speak to us at this event today. So Alice, when you're ready, you have the floor.
Hi, guys.
Hey,
Don't mind my dog.
Alice.
Don't mind my dog. She just wanted to be in the shot. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. So today we're talking about resilience and self-worth and disability pride. Well, I'm not really, Jessica's presentation was amazing, by the way, but I'm not really a PowerPoint kind of girl. I'm just more of a fly by the seat of my wheels kind of gal. So with that said, I was born in 1986. I was 3 months premature. I was supposed to be born in March, but I was born in December. And that caused spastic diplegia cerebral palsy. So I've been disabled since birth. I use a wheelchair to get around. Yeah, and so growing up in the early years of the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, I was kind of a trailblazer as far as entering the school system, and basically we talked about bullying. I was never bullied by any children or any of my peers. I was actually bullied by a lot of my teachers because I learned differently. I have a lot of learning disabilities as far as math, and I get tired easily. And the teachers weren't very accepting of that. I would miss a lot of school because I was so tired. And after a while, they thought I was faking it. I wish they would have done a lot more research as far as cerebral palsy goes. So I kind of felt like I didn't really fit in anywhere. I know that I wanted to be a professional baseball player. That's where I felt I fit in as a young kid with sports. And I also encountered a lot of ableism when it came to playing sports. Anything past t-ball, it was really hard. So I was kind of lost for a bit. About 8 or 9 years old, 10 years old, around that time period, I was wondering, what was I going to do? How was I going to be seen? Because I didn't really feel seen a lot, especially growing up in a small town. And I realized one of my favorite things to do besides playing with the baseball was watching movies. That was something that I could just pop in a VHS tape, like what's sitting behind me, and I could just forget all my troubles, my disability troubles or my school troubles, and just relax and be transported wherever I wanted to go. And I realized, hey, I want to do this. I want to make others happy and like how these movies make me happy. So I got into acting, which wasn't easy because the only form of acting where I lived was theater. And theater, of course, is an old art, especially where I grew up in the mountains in Calaveras County in Northern California. So I still had to deal with inaccessibility in the theater realm, but I pushed forward as I really enjoyed it. And then I just kind of found my groove. I realized that I could be an advocate simply by wheeling on stage. At first I could hear the whispers, kind of the butts twitching in the seats, because most of the time I think where people feel uncomfortable about disability is they've never seen it or they weren't expecting it. We're kind of like the element of surprise. And then by the end, I had people laughing. I had people coming up to me saying, you were great. And that's where I really took off as far as being an advocate for my community. And when I was about 16 or 17, that's when I really started to feel comfortable in my own community to give back. I started going to a lot of summer camps in Sacramento, California. And again, just by being myself and just by being a counselor, I could tell kids that it's going to be okay. School isn't easy for us. I feel like, they want us to fit into a box that most of us don't really fit into. And it's okay if you don't exactly fit into that box, because all the stuff that makes you uncomfortable now is going to be your shining star as you get older. Like for me, it was my disability. It was also the fact that I was gay. So I actually didn't come out of the closet until I was 19 years old, out of high school, because I knew that, I was already the disabled kid. I didn't necessarily want to be the gay kid as well in high school. So I completely understand everybody's trepidations with having a disability in the school system. It's not easy, but believe me, you will get through that and you will realize that you have all these skills that you've utilized to get through sticky school situations, that by the time it'll be so helpful when you're an adult, because you know how to stick up for yourself, and you know how to advocate for yourself, and you know how to make stuff happen. And never take no for an answer. And so after high school, I moved down to Southern California to pursue my dreams as an actor. And when I first came down to Southern California, it was in 2005, and there really wasn't any rules for people with disabilities at the time, which was quite heartbreaking for me to really make that realization. Even though I knew as a kid sitting watching all my movies, I never really saw somebody like me. But I just thought, oh, they'll see me and they'll know. Well, they didn't, and it was really tough. And so I got really involved in disability advocacy down here and LGBT advocacy. And I really kind of discovered within those years of not acting and just doing advocacy down here in Southern California, I really realized what kind of artist I am and what kind of person I am. And I think it's not just about fame, it's about putting out something where somebody is going to see themselves and it changes them and it becomes a part of whatever role you're playing. It becomes a part of people's hearts, mind, psyches. It changes the world. So in 2014, my world changed when I met the woman of my dreams. We got married in 2014 on Halloween, and they are disabled as well. And my wife said something to me that kind of changed me forever. She goes, well, I've never really seen you act. And that hurt me because I had all these years of, playing all these beloved characters on stage and getting well known and getting awards, but my wife had never seen a single thing I'd done. So I decided from that moment on that I was going to get back into it. And at that point, there was a little show called Speechless, and it was on ABC, and it was about a young boy with CP that isn't able to speak. And so he uses an interpreter to speak for him, and he has his family. And I thought, wow, this is really cool. And I was watching like the last episode or the first couple of episodes of the first season. And I was just telling my wife, man, this is really great. This show makes me feel like we're actually starting to be seen. And before you know it, I was getting a phone call to be doing some extra work for Speechless. And that really catapulted me back into things. And I familiarized myself with another agent that I knew for years. And I started doing background work pretty steadily. And that's when I booked my first role on 911. I played a dispatcher named Stephanie Gaskins, who helps the lead character perform a emergency tracheotomy. And I really love that representation because, and I always will, because the main character is asking a disabled person what to do in an emergency situation. And they already have the facts, the knowledge to rescue the main character. If I do nothing else in my career, I think Stephanie is like kind of that shining example of we are worthy, we do have skill sets, and we do belong in the everyday workspace. Because I can't tell you the number of times people have come up to me and said, that's so cool that Stephanie already had the skill set to rescue the character. And I've had a lot of people say like I'm able to have this job now because of this character. And that's what it's all about, is, believe it or not, you never know who could be seeing what I'm doing and then hire somebody else with a disability. You just, and that sort of stuff just blows my mind. I've done a commercial since then. I've worked with Netflix. I've worked with Disney, ABC. I worked with Permobile. I run my own disability website for people that use medical cannabis. And so that's another instance where using Instagram or Facebook as a tool to get my disability voice out there and kind of show the world what it's like for us. And we do encounter a lot of struggles in the world as far as existing and getting our needs met, which I'm hoping that will become less of a fact of, I think people with disability, the ableism of the world should not reside on the persons with disability shoulders. It should be a collective fight and understanding of basic things like all places should be accessible, and so that people with all disabilities should have their dignity and safety wherever they go. We're able to be hired for jobs. We're able to have marriage equality. I still, right now, I live on SSI, and as most of you know, you're not able to really work on SSI, and if you do, that's a risk, because if you're sick too often and you lose your job, there goes your insurance, which we desperately need. The whole system is not about maintaining personal care and help for the disabled, but I do believe there's enough of us that are aware now and don't want us to keep going on a road that's going to have us struggling constantly to exist, to be seen, to be successful. Because I think that people with disabilities are magic. I really do believe that. And I do believe that we're here to make the world a better place, to make the world a more understanding place, and to let people see our strengths, which are so many things. I would say we don't give in. We have a great sense of humor about things. We're wildly compassionate about others. I think our disability allows us to see the world from a different angle, especially when it comes to compassion. And don't ever let the hardships of this world stop you from being your wonderful, compassionate, disabled self, because it's magic. It is magic. And we do have the capacity to change the world for the better. And I do believe we will get there. You just have to believe in yourself and believe in your magic. So that's pretty much my story. If there's anything you want to know, I'm an open book.
Oh yeah, we got a lot of questions. Well, first though,
Cool.
we have someone raising their hand. So Alicia, I'm gonna assume that you need to speak, so I'm gonna allow you to talk. Oh, again, you are using an older version of Zoom, so it won't allow me to let you speak. So Alicia, if you could please type in the Q&A, whatever your question is, that would be great. Okay, so here's some questions for you. First one, is there enough representation of the disabled community in Hollywood today, do you feel?
I still don't feel like it is enough, but I definitely, like I said, I started working in the industry in 2005. I do feel like there is a massive change that has taken place in the last 5 years, and there's a lot more representation, but there always could be more, always.
I like
And
it.
Yeah. And I mean, I just from, doing background work, for example, in 2005, I mean, I was practically like shoved into a corner, wasn't fed for hours, that kind of weird stuff. And then now it's like, they know every time I'm on set, they know that I'm there. They're constantly asking me if I'm okay, or if I need anything, or if I need a push, or there's an accessibility issue. It's like now it's doctored into my contracts whenever I work. If I do have a speaking role, that everything has to be accessible. And I mean, that's huge for me. I just worked probably one of my favorite gigs ever yesterday, and they picked me up in a car because I don't drive, and they brought me back home, and I thought that was the coolest thing I've ever encountered, because it gets you down. Sure, it's okay to have it's okay to have a nuanced relationship with your disability. And what I mean by that is, it's okay to have those days where you're like, oh man, like I have disability grief, and I have disability grief when it comes to driving, for example, because I'm 35 and I don't drive. So not being able to just take a drive or do something independently gets you down. But then here I am working for a major worldwide company yesterday, and here they are picking me up from my house. So, just focus on the good days, know how much you're worth, and let the magic take over.
All right. Okay, so we have this next one that said, when I was growing up, some of my early childhood doctors thought I would never walk, talk, or do things. But by the time I did, what they thought was impossible. And Alice, you have had a great set of advice, and you definitely have made me smile.
Oh, well, thanks, Jordan.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was a comment that someone left.
Okay.
I mean, you have made me smile, but I just want to,
Okay. Yeah. No, I think that's, doctors really don't know anything about, I think they kind of baseline how a person's going to be on, what their diagnosis is. I remember doctors would say, oh, Alice is going to walk by the time she's 7. Which of course I remember that. And of course I didn't, not on my own anyway. But that, again, that doesn't mean that you failed. We're all worthy. We all, just don't give in. Telling you can't give in, because we're all here for a purpose.
The next comment that someone left was, I was so sad when Speechless was canceled.
Yes, so was I. I was on 6 episodes, and everybody was top notch. I knew it was going to be a special experience when I was paired with Minnie Driver, the first episode that I was in. And it just kind of, I think it opened up the industry too. They were like, oh, this is funny, like it always kind of amazes me when they're like, oh, we had no idea you guys were so talented. And I'm like, yeah, we've been here for years, and Speechless was that first little showing of, what we're capable of. And believe me, I have some keepsakes on my altar from Speechless. It'll always have a very dear place in my heart.
Okay, the next comment or question is, what programs, clubs, or resources would you say helped you the most as a preteen or a teen that helped build your confidence?
Going to camp. I remember when I was like young, I didn't really feel comfortable around people with disabilities. I think that probably stemmed from the fact that I was so little. Because I'm only 4'9". So when I was like a kid, I was really little. In a walker, probably not so steady. So I was a little unsure on people with disabilities when I was younger. And I remember going to a camp before I was ready, a disability camp, and it didn't go well, and I went home. And it took me years to go to another camp. When I did, it was the best experience. And all I wanted to be was around my disabled peers after that. And so I really do think that, like, when you're ready, when you're comfortable, it's all about, I still immerse myself in disability culture. That's one of the things that I do with my platform Rolling Stone, is not only do I share my experience on disability and cannabis use, but I also share other people's experiences and other stories. And I kind of feel like it's become a little bit of a disability hub. And that's where I feel most comfortable, is with my own peeps, because they just know, they have an understanding. There's not going to be any judgment if you're not able to make a meeting or to hang out, because that's kind of my thing. I think that's probably why acting works so well for me, is, you know, you do the job for a little bit and then you're done, and then you get to rest. You know, the regular world doesn't exactly work like that. Especially here in America, we work until we die. And I think rest is really important, and something that I hold dear. So it's nice to be around people that understand that and respect your safety and your needs.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we're whittling them away, but we still got some. So the next
Okay.
question is, what company like Disney, Netflix, etc., felt the most welcoming to you?
Oh my goodness. Um, you know, I've been very blessed to work with. I would say 911 was pretty great, because I was able to knock that out in just 45 minutes, and which is really fast. Normally, you know, if you're working on a scene that's a couple of pages, that's going to be at least a couple of hours, but you just never know what you're wheeling into. Whether you're going to be, you know, working with a director that's going to work you for a couple of hours, or is just going to see that you're on top of it and go with the flow quickly. But I can't exactly tell you what my gig was yesterday, because I'm under contract, but that was pretty darn cool.
All right.
So, and
We'll hit you
yeah,
back
it was
when the contract has expired, and you can give the deets. Then we'll ask.
Oh yeah. Oh, and I'll be sharing with everybody. That you'll know by Thanksgiving. So, but yeah, again, it's been a wonderful experience to see the change, and to have huge studios say, yeah, we want diversity, and we're going to take care of you and make you feel safe. That means the world.
Mm-hmm. Next question was, what series or movies do you think show our community in a good light?
Oh gosh, I love, you know, there are some portrayals that are still close to my heart, even if the person playing them wasn't actually disabled, but I grew up with them. So it was like, at least that gave me something to look to kind of go, yeah, that resembles who we are. And I've always gone back to Forrest Gump, and how Forrest Gump is magic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just by loving his mama and Jenny and God, he was able to change the world everywhere he went, and change the lives of people that were affected by him everywhere he went. And that's just the pie, that's the pinnacle of the disability magic for me. And I got to work at Paramount for a couple of seasons on a show called For the People.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where, of course, they shot Forrest Gump was at Paramount. So I got to sit on the bench and I got to like see like never before seen photos that was in the Paramount Theater. So that was pretty darn cool.
Oh, wow. Definitely some benefits right there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Here's a good question. Someone asked, how did your world change during COVID?
Whew, that's a good question. Everything changed. I personally have a lot of trauma when it comes to medical trauma, of course, and I'm sure many of you can relate. I was very lucky to only have one major surgery in my life, and that was because the first experience was so awful that I told my parents never again, and luckily they listened to me. So for a long time after that, I didn't like to go into hospitals, and I still don't. So the fact that the whole entire world was getting sick was, yeah, I had panic attacks. I had to go back into therapy, which is very important, I think, for everybody to be utilizing at this time. I went back on medication. Acting was pretty sparse. I kind of felt like pre-pandemic, I was just rolling as far as, my dreams. But yeah, now it's starting to pick up a little bit, which is good. But it's forever changed. One of the things I would say as far as acting goes, a lot of auditions now, most auditions now are done on your phone. You can record them and then send them via email, which is really awesome because then people with disabilities don't have to drive random places to audition, which can be really hard because very often, you'll get zero notice for an audition and it takes a lot of planning. So it's very handy to just be able to, shoot an audition on your phone and send it off. But yeah, COVID has changed everything.
Mm-hmm. So we have 3 comments from the same person. So I'm going to read all 3 at once.
Okay.
They said, I have a disability and I'm a student at Fresno City College online. Then they said that they're vice president of SCCCD, the ARC, and their family members are disabled and they were bullied in a day program. And then the last thing they said was that they admire you and they're glad to learn a lot from you.
Oh, I admire you. The feeling is mutual. Yeah, I'm so sorry that, when it came to bullying again, it was people, administrators, teachers, teachers that shouldn't have been teachers. Let's just put it that way. Don't get me wrong, I do have positive experiences with authority figures, absolutely. But I don't think you should tolerate that in any way, shape, or form. And you should move where you get your advocacy from and your way of disability community. And find new friends, find another group, because it's not worth the stress. It's not worth draining any of your magic over. So because it's not about you, it could be about that person's disability and how it's affecting them that day. Because that happens to me sometimes. I'll get worrisome about something, about one of my needs not being met, or about something that could happen but hasn't happened yet. That happens to me all the time. And then before I know it, like my brain starts to be in like the spin mode of like anxiety. And I think that happens to a lot of people with disabilities. And sometimes we could just be having a bad day. And sometimes I find that if somebody is just, with a disability, is also bullying someone with a disability, it's probably just because they're overwhelmed. So set them aside and be like, hey, you're hurting my feelings. Like, either we got to work this out or I got to move on.
Mhm. All right, guys. Well, this is your time. So we can ask Alice questions, but they might not be questions that you guys have. So
I won't bite, I promise.
I'm just trying to look in your background and see all the stuff that you got. I feel like you got collectibles up behind your head.
Oh yeah, no, so this is my VHS collection. It's like 2 walls worth, as well as some figures in there. And it's kind of just my film study. And it's really helped me keep my happiness up when, we're dealing with stuff like COVID, and I could just come here and relax and rewind and be kind.
Mhm.
And it's, again, tapes have always been my way of just processing, my life.
Mhm.
And it's always been a source of happiness for me. Like Mufasa says to Simba, remember who you are. And that we are kings. We are disability kings and queens. And we have the capacity to create great change and power always.
So we did get another question. Alice, what is your favorite animal-based film?
Oh man, that's a good one. We were just talking about it. I mean, I have always been a huge fan of Roger Rabbit. Roger Rabbit, it's just something that I latched onto when I was probably a toddler. And what I love about Roger is that everything, especially if you've seen the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit, it's an older movie. It's probably came out in 88 or 89. But he's basically being framed for murder. And he's this hysterical rabbit. And he's kind of like Mickey Mouse of the cartoons. And so he's being framed for murder, which he did not commit. And no matter what happens to him in this movie, he's just he can light up the world. He's a source of joy no matter what. And he's always been my hero for that reason. And I would probably say Lion King. I had to sneak another one in there.
I know it was perfect timing that they asked animal-based as you're talking about Lion King.
Yeah, absolutely. Lion King, I mean, that's definitely my wife's favorite. She usually plays the Hakuna Matata every morning during coffee. So,
okay, one more question says, how many shows have you had roles in?
oh man, lots. I've worked on. I mean, you could see me on IMDb. If you type in Alice Keena Deal, that'll be my IMDb page. I've had roles in 911, Speechless. Can't even remember. I really can't remember them all. Disney. Trying to think. I've Facebook. I've got a series for them. And again, when you're focusing on acting, I think that no role is too small. You're always going to learn something no matter what the job is. And I think it's important to try and learn everything you can. And a lot of people say, oh, well, you still do background work, that's non-speaking roles. And the way I see it is, it's like you get paid to kind of go to film school for a day. So take advantage of every opportunity that you have.
Someone commented you were awesome in the drunk history episode.
All right. You saw that, huh? Yeah, drunk history is another one. That again, that was a background role. Thank you for bringing that up, because it's hard for me to remember on the spot. But yeah, see, that was a background role, and that was right after I got on Speechless. And because Speechless was so positive and there were so many people in front of the camera with disabilities, I thought, what the heck? I had never heard of drunk history at the time, so I had no idea what I was in for. And it turned out to be a complete disability advocacy episode based on Judy Heumann and what she did with the 504 protest in the 70s as far as trying to make buildings accessible. So to be able to view a small part of disability history forever is the dream. So you just never know what you're going to be a part of when you wheel into things, and how they see you and how they're going to use you. So just go in ready to work and be present and just have fun.
What about you guys? Do you guys are there any, actors here that you're, gaining some confidence from Alice, and maybe that might be something you would want to look into for yourself, or
do you have any questions about acting for me?
Mm-hmm. Not seeing anything.
All right. Well, that's good. And again, I'm 35. And so I was the first kid with a disability to go through mainstream schooling. And I just realized this recently. And I wish my mom would have told me, because I did go through a lot of unnecessary hardship because I was that first kid to pave the way for everybody else. And sometimes, it's nice to have the title of trailblazer and I paved the way, but there's a lot of bad stuff that can happen with that too, because I was the first person to really do it. But know that you've been given that title for a reason, and it gets, I know it sounds cheesy, but it does get better. It was hard for me growing up, being one of the few kids with a disability in my small town that I grew up in. And I had suicidal thoughts when I was 13, and I've had some even now with COVID, to be honest. And just keep reminding yourself that you're worthy. And surround yourself with love and only people that are going to be on your side, because that especially is really important, is to have people around you that know your worth and love you no matter what. If you don't have that right now, go and find it, because that's what's really going to help you as a support system for those dark times. And you know what? No one is exempt from those dark times. Everybody's going to experience, okay, I'm not worthy at this time. I'm really struggling. And therapy and reaching out to your loved ones is what's going to help. So make sure you have those put in place. That's probably the only good thing that the school system really did for me, really, was put me into therapy really young. So I got used to talking about my feelings and how I was affected. Maybe not as in detail. I remember, when I was younger and in school, I was sort of just kind of like Miss Positive, and I still am. I still consider myself very optimistic, but I never kind of let people know all the different ableism that I would expect, that I would experience from my everyday life. And I think that's what I want people to know is I don't hate being disabled. I actually love being disabled. It's who I am. It's all I've ever known. But what I hate is ableism. And that's something that we all experience if we have a disability every day. And before you know it, that pressure weighs you down, and you could be struggling one day, and make sure you have your toolbox, and whether it's a therapist or friends, so you could say, listen, I need to vent, I need to get this off my chest. And you'd be surprised how much healing can happen once you're able to be in a safe space and get those things off your chest on a regular basis.
Another question, how long does it take to get a role in a show or movie?
I mean, it's when I got Stephanie, let's see, that was in 2018. So, I mean, it took a long time. It's sort of, I mean, it really depends. It could be the luck of a draw. You could be one of those people that, got discovered really quickly, or, you're in it for the long haul, and it's kind of like the marathon. And, in some ways that is that much more satisfying when you've been plugging away for so long, but it can be exhausting at times, and you need to step away. Like, before I got on Speechless, I didn't act for 7 years because of how I was treated before, or not treated for that matter. And it took, like I said, it took me marrying my wife, and for them to say, oh, I've never seen you act, for me to be like, well, hey, I gotta show my wife something. I had a purpose, I had a reason to go out there, and it worked out. Just because you had one experience several years ago doesn't mean that it's going to be the same experience that many years later. And keep that in mind, especially if it's something you love. Don't give up on your passions just because someone isn't ready for you yet. That doesn't mean that it's going to be the case later.
That's good advice. We have another comment that said, I was born a decade after ADA, so second generation of ADA was legalized, and you paved the way with greatness that is uniquely you.
Oh, well, good. I'm so glad. And yeah, I can't believe the ADA is 30. I mean, it feels longer than that to me, but yeah, it's, I kind of feel like there's so much work still to be done, just as far as accessibility. I mean, it drives me crazy that an old building has more rights than we do. So just never stop reminding people of our dignity and our safety, and you're not being a difficult disabled person by saying, hey, when you say there's just a step, that literally could mean, for example, I was going to a friend's birthday party, and he had 3 concrete steps leading to his house. And he was lifting the back side of my chair, and my mom was just lifting the front, and she didn't hear him. And so she lifted the chair, and my head landed on the back of the cement step, and it was really bad, and I got a concussion. So, I mean, it's just those simple little things that most non-disabled people don't even really think about. So keep reminding them, keep making our presence known, and, make sure that everywhere is safe for our future disabled buddies.
I love it. That's good advice, because more often than not, like, even if you get the wrong order from your waitress, it's like people have a hard time speaking up and saying, oh, I actually ordered no hair on my hamburger, thank you, or whatever it is. But it's always like we feel like we're being too much for someone, and that shouldn't be on us to feel that we are too much. It should be on them to be welcoming of us, really.
Absolutely. And that's really been a point maybe in the last 5 years of me, starting my own Instagram and platform. Me, starting to say, this sucks, accessibility sucks, or ableism in school sucks. Ableism in dating. Oh my gosh, I encountered so much ableism while I was dating. Every person that I've been with, except for one, their families all had to have conversations with my significant others about how our lives were going to be different because I was disabled. And it's those things that kind of weigh you down when you're in a bad space, and you kind of go, oh my gosh, am I too much? Am I too disabled? Is this too hard? La la la, that spin cycle, you know, and you're not too much. You're perfect just the way you are. And, you know, keep making your presence known, keep making the world know that you're disabled, and it's okay. It's just different. It's not worse, it's just different. And the only thing that isn't great is ableism. And you can just keep educating. And then on the days that you can't and don't wish to, that's totally fine. Take a break, you know, because there is such a thing as advocacy burnout too. So make sure you're taking care of yourself. And when you're able to educate again, go right back at it.
We have another question in the Q&A, but it's in Spanish. So I'm not sure if we bring Daniel back or if I go to the English listen in. I'm not quite sure what to do.
Let me pull one of the interpreters back in.
Thank you.
Loving all these questions, guys. Thank you so much.
And then while we're doing that, somebody else. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Okay.
Daniel. Yeah, I
I'm
can
back.
hear you.
I'm back. Yes.
Perfect.
No, I need to see who's speaking Spanish.
Well, it's a
Oh,
it's a question in the
ah,
Q&A.
yeah. Sorry. It doesn't appear in my screen.
You don't have, okay, hang on. Let me,
For some reason, I cannot see question and answer section.
you don't see Q&A at the bottom?
Yes, I see it. I click on it, but it doesn't appear. It doesn't turn on my screen.
There's nothing for open or answered or dismissed?
No, it's there. It says it's a problem with the computer.
Guess I could email it to you.
I can translate if you want.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
That would be great. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah,
Let me save this.
no worries. The question, or it's a comment and a question. It says, my son loves biographies of creators. Just, I was gonna say not anime, but like of just Disney characters. So his biggest wish is to visit the los estudios de grabación. Oh, and his biggest wish is to be able to visit Universal Studios.
Cool.
Le gustaría ser un gran, darle voz a una carita. Sorry, I'm still trying to read the question. Le gustaría ser un gran, darle voz a una caricatura como abrirle esa. Okay, I don't necessarily understand the question because it's not completed, but it says he would like to know if you were to do just a cartoon character, like if you were to do a cartoon character, how would if you were to want to go into that type of work realm, how would he be able to go into that work realm? And then it continues with how like how you have done it, because like she wants to help her son out in being able to make it into like the work realm, but more so into being able to,
Voiceover.
yeah.
Basically.
And yeah, and then it says I admire your accomplishments. My son is 13 years old and he's an adolescent with autism, and he's in general classes with regular kids, con apoyos. Okay, with, sorry, I'm just like, it's a little bit confusing how it's written, so I'm like trying.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as far as voiceover, that's something that I literally just fell into because of my agent, who said, you know, they contacted us, the company contacted us and said, you know, we're looking for just a small character to voice, and they booked me off my reel. Now that's like a video of all the roles that I've done, and maybe compiled into like 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, that a casting director can look at. We have like these big casting websites now that we put all our information on. You could also get your son involved with central casting. They're the ones that are basically in charge of like background work. But as far as voiceover, I just got real lucky with my agent, you know, being contacted by this company and saying, you know, we want them to voice this role, and I guess my voice fit, so they just cast me immediately. You know, that kind of stuff is pretty rare. I think, you know, if you want your son to get involved with, you know, voice acting, I do have an agent that specifically works with people with disabilities, and that agency is called KMR. And the agent that I work with her name is Gail Williamson, and she's been a part of the community for many years, as her son is an actor with Down syndrome, a very well known actor. So she's been working with us for many years, and she's going to be leaving soon, which is really sad, but she's got a fantastic team behind her that believes in all people with disabilities and what we're capable of. So yeah, I would suggest giving them a call if it's something you're really interested in. Absolutely. If it's something that your son is really interested in, don't be shy, because they're always looking out for new talent. So.
Mhm. And then we have another question too. You said that you switched agents. Do you feel the first wasn't as accommodating?
Well, it's interesting because I was with KMR before Gail was there, and I think I went on like 2 auditions. That was like maximum, and they just had no idea what to do with me. And then once Gail took over, it was like a whole different ball game, because she was a mom of somebody with a disability that knew her son's worth and knew our worth. You know, all these different talents with disabilities that have been around for as long as I have, since 2005 or prior to that. So everything really changed. It went from, you know, maybe us bringing in like 10,000 into the office. Well, now in recent years, it's been about 3 million into the office. So we're all worthy. We all have talents. It's just about finding the right representation. And I think that KMR is going to be a leading source, and has already been a leading source as far as representing disability talent. And, you know, to be honest, you're not going to get as many opportunities as your non-disabled peers. I'm just going to be honest, which means that you need to be able to be on whenever your opportunity arises. And what I mean by that is, it's good to get an acting coach. It's good to go to classes. It's good to have all strong tools. So when your opportunity arises, you're already there. You're already where you need to be. Yeah, and I think it's acting classes can be really fun. That's another source of community that you could find right there.
All right, well, I'm not seeing any other questions or comments. So I'm gonna wait just a few seconds and then I'm gonna launch the poll.
So, sorry to jump in. Can you assign back as interpreter, please?
Oh, yes. Well, I can't, but I'm sure Nick will.
Excuse me.
All right, so here we go. We're launching the last poll, disability, pride, and resilience. And I'm sure that if everyone looks up your IMDb, that they can, see the different roles it played and then maybe give those television shows a watch and see if they enjoy it.
Definitely. Special is one of them. That's another one on Netflix. That was a great experience. That's another one you should definitely check out because it deals with a gay man with cerebral palsy and how he navigates his life. That's another positive disability representation, I would say. But again, thank you guys for always inviting me back. I always learn something from all the speakers, and I learned something from you guys, and just know how special you are, and it's okay to be special, and you were born for greatness.
100% participation on this one. All right.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you, Alice, so much. We love
Thank
having
you.
you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend. And thank you everyone for coming on behalf of RICV, EPU, CVRC, and SCDD. We all thank you for your participation and we wish all of you luck on your advocacy journey.
And
To
you-
close us, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry. And you guys also will be receiving a follow-up email with all the information and recordings in the next coming weeks.
Yes, yes, indeed. To close us out this week, we're gonna have Chloe give us one last, Chloe's care tip. Take it away, Chloe.
Hi guys, so for the last tip of the week, my self-care tip is to get up and stretch because well, right now, we've been in our seats for a while, so just making sure that you are stretching and moving your muscles, and doing this every day will help your body just be able to move a little better, and you'll feel better, and overall. So yeah, have a great weekend, and thank you so much for coming, guys. Bye.